The Texas sun hung low in the sky, a blazing orb casting long shadows over the brittle grass. Heat shimmered on the horizon, distorting the outline of the bees in the distance like ghosts drifting across the earth. The wind, dry and sharp, carried with it the scent of scorched soil and something fouler, burnt leather, gunpowder, blood. Cole Brandon rode with a purpose. His stallion's hoofs thudded against the parched ground in a steady rhythm, a sound that kept his thoughts anchored. He hadn't spoken a word in hours. The silence suited him. He'd spent too many years with nothing worth saying. A rifle was slung across his back, a revolver low on his hip. Dust clung to his duster, his face half-shadowed beneath the brim of a weather-beaten hat. He hadn't planned to return to these lands, but when word reached him, barely a whisper through drunk tongues and broken maps of a Mescalero Apache woman captured and dragged north by bounty hunters, something stirred in him he thought long dead. He hadn't seen her in years, hadn't even known if she still breathed, but he'd never forgotten the girl who once stood between him and a bullet with nothing but her own courage. The settlement came into view as the sun dipped below the edge of the world. Smoke curled upward into the dusk sky, lazy but insistent, the kind of smoke that spoke of pain, of violence. He slowed his horse, eyes narrowing. What should have been a peaceful outpost was now no more than a skeleton. Burned wagons, shattered fences, and the scorched remains of what once resembled homes. He dismounted slowly, boots crunching over ash and spent cartridges. Flies buzzed thick in the air, and somewhere nearby a crow called once, then fell silent. Bodies lay scattered, stripped of dignity. Men, women. A child's hand reached from beneath a torn blanket. Cole knelt beside one of the fallen, a rancher, by the look of him, jaw slack in death. His throat had been cut clean. No bullet, just steel. Bounty hunters didn't waste lead when a blade would do. Then he heard it, a low groan from beneath a collapsed wagon. He moved quickly, shoving aside broken timber until he found an old man half buried and bleeding from a gash in his side. The man's eyes flickered open, clouded with pain, but clear enough to focus on Cole's face. They took her, the man rasped, Apache girl, young, fought like hell. Cole's chest tightened. Where? North, through the pass, Snake Ridge. The man coughed, a dark trickle running from the corner of his mouth. 5 riders, mean bastards. She saved my granddaughter, held him off long enough for her to run. Cole swallowed hard. What's her name? Caw, the old man whispered. Caw. The name hit him like a hammer. Cole stood, jaw set. His eyes traced the broken horizon as night began to fall. Stars blinking to life above the ruined land. He tightened the strap on his saddle, checked the load of his rifle, and mounted up again. Ka was alive, and they had taken her. He turned his horse. Northward without another word, the wind now colder on his face. Each hoof-beat was a vow, every breath a warning. They didn't know who they had taken, but they were about to learn. The morning sun cracked over the jagged horizon like a gunshot, casting long rays of gold across the land. Cole had ridden through the night, the trail fresh and angry beneath the hooves of his horse. Every broken branch, every scuffed rock, every print in the dust was a scream. They weren't hiding their trail. Men like that never did. They believed the desert would protect them, that the girl they dragged behind their saddles was just another ghost swallowed by the silence, but they hadn't counted on him. Cole crouched near the edge of a creek bed, fingers brushing a set of hoof prints. 5 riders, one heavier set of tracks, deeper, probably the one carrying Kaya. They weren't moving fast. Confident, cocky, he'd seen it before. Men who thought the weight of their guns made them gods. He stood slowly, his joints stiff from the ride. The creek whispered past, its waters murky and slow. Across the bank, something caught his eye. A length of rope hanging from a tree branch, frayed, torn. His pulse quickened. A piece of dark cloth fluttered nearby, snagged on a thorn bush. He moved to it, picked it up carefully. Blood not much, but enough. She fought, he murmured. Kaa had always been a storm in a small frame. The last time he'd seen her, she was no more than a girl, fists clenched and eyes burning. Her people had welcomed him when he was nothing, an orphan boy with a price on his head and nowhere to turn. They gave him food, shelter, even a name. But it was Kaa who gave him a reason to believe he could be something more than just a ghost in a man's skin. Now she was alone. Chained, and Cole Brandon rode with one truth in his bones. He would find her, or he'd bury every man in his way. By noon the heat pressed down like a hand on his back, sweat trailing down his spine. He followed the trail into a narrow canyon, the rock walls rising high around him, red, blistered from years of sun. It was the kind of place where ambushes happened, where screams went unanswered. His hand hovered near his revolver, eyes sharp, scanning every ridge. A glint of metal, a shadow too fast. Cole dove from his horse just as the first shot rang out, the sound echoing like thunder. Dust exploded where he'd stood. He rolled, came up behind a rock, drew his revolver. Another shot closer. He spotted movement. Two men crouched above the canyon rim, amateurs. He fired once, twice. One dropped. The other scrambled back, yelling something into the wind. Cole didn't wait. He climbed the rock wall with practiced ease, boots finding purchase in the cracks. At the top, he moved fast, silent, a breath, a whisper. The second man turned just in time to catch the butt of Cole's revolver to his face. The man hit the ground hard, blood smearing the rock. Cole pressed a knee, his chest, gun against his throat. "Where are they?" he growled. The man coughed, nose broken, eyes wild. You don't understand. You don't know who hired us." "I didn't ask who. I asked where." He swallowed. "Old mining camp, east of Snake Ridge. Half a day's ride." "Kaa, is she alive?" The man hesitated. Cole pressed harder. "Say it. She is for now. They're waiting for the buyer, some bastard from Santa Fe." Cole's jaw clenched. He rose, keeping his gun trained. How many? 5, maybe 6. More if the buyer shows early. Cole fired once. Not to kill, just a warning shot into the dirt beside the man's head. "You tell the rest of your crew what you saw," he said coldly. "You tell them the next man who lays a hand on her won't get a warning." Then he turned, vaulted back down into the canyon, and mounted up. The horse snorted, eager to run. He didn't stop again. The sun began to bleed into the west, painting the rocks and shades of fire. Cole rode toward it like a shadow, every hoof beat pushing him closer to the flame. He had a name now. He had a place, and come nightfall, that camp would burn. By the time Cole reached the outskirts of the old mining camp, the sky was a bruised purple, and the last of the daylight was clinging to the canyon peaks like dying embers. He dismounted behind a cluster of boulders, tying his horse off with a loose knot. The animal huffed, sensing the tension in the air, its ears twitching with each distant sound. The camp sat in a bowl of earth, surrounded by sharp ridges and scattered mine shafts. Once a place where men chased silver, now it served a darker purpose. The buildings were crumbling skeletons, splintered timber, rusted nails, broken glass, but light flickered from the windows. Laughter drifted on the breeze. Men unaware that death rode on their heels, drank and played cards in the ghost of a town long dead. Cole crept forward, his boots silent against the dust. From behind a collapsed wall he scanned the main building. 5 horses were tethered to a crooked rail out front. Voices inside, 3, maybe 4, but one sounded different, sharper, foreign. That would be the buyer. He was early. Inside, Kaa waited. Somewhere in that room, chained or bound, maybe drugged. Rage tightened in Cole's chest like a vice, but rage didn't win fights. Discipline did. He spotted a second building, darker, smaller, a storage shed or holding place. He moved toward it, knife drawn. The lock was weak. He twisted the blade into the seam of the door and popped it free. A groan. His heart jumped. Inside, Ka lay curled on the floor, wrists bound in rope, blood crusted at the corner of her mouth. She blinked against the light, then froze, fear flashing in her eyes until recognition set in. Cole, her voice was dry, barely a whisper. He dropped beside her, cutting the ropes with a flick of his knife. "I'm here," he said, voice low. "You're safe now." She reached for him weakly, fingers trembling. They were going to sell him. "Me, that man, he speaks Spanish. Rich, dangerous." Cole nodded, already helping her to her feet. "Can you walk?" She grimaced, tried to stand. Her legs wobbled. "I'll manage." He helped her to the doorway, peering out into the night. The wind had picked up, carrying the scent of smoke and gun oil. He needed to get her clear. There was a narrow trail back the way he came, steep but passable. He pointed to the ridge. "Go that way. Stay low. My horse is tied off behind the rocks. Ride west fast. Don't stop until you reach the creek. Wait for me there." Cog grabbed his arm. "You're not coming. I am after I make sure they can't follow." She stared at him, her eyes wide and scared, but nodded. "Don't die." He gave a tight smile, not planning to. She slipped into the shadows, vanishing like smoke. Cole turned back toward the camp, the heat rising in his chest like the stirrings of a storm. His knife was slick with Kaya's blood. Just a few drops, but enough to promise what was coming. He moved around to the side of the main building, crouching beneath a window. The buyer's voice carried above the rest. "She's strong, young, the kind men pay well for." Cole's jaw clenched. He reached for his revolver. "You'll get your gold when the horse is loaded." "And she's tied to it." The buyer continued. "No games." "I don't play games," said another voice. Snake Daniels, the bastard who'd led the raid. Cole recognized it, that low nasal sneer like a snake hissing through teeth. Perfect. He stood, kicked in the door, and shot the first man he saw. Panic erupted, the table overturned, cards scattered, guns drawn too late. Cole fired again, hitting a man in the shoulder. The buyer ducked behind a crate, cursing in Spanish. Snake dove for his pistol, but Cole was faster. A third shot shattered the lantern, plunging the room into chaos. Men screamed, the smell of smoke rose. Cole tackled one to the ground, driving his knee into the outlaw's gut and slamming his head against the floorboards. Another tried to run. Cole shot him in the back. He moved through the room like a storm, controlled and violent. When the gunfire stopped, only two were left breathing. Snake clutching a bloodied arm, and the buyer pale and cornered. "You—" Snake coughed. "She wasn't worth all this." "She was everything." Cole growled. He fired. Snake's body slumped to the floor. The buyer whimpered. "Wait, wait." "I have money." "I didn't hurt her." Cole stepped closer, eyes like steel. "You paid for flesh. That's enough." The last shot echoed into the night. When he emerged from the building, the fire had begun to spread, catching on the broken timbers. The ghost camp lit up like Judgment Day. He didn't look back. Mounted his horse and rode hard for the creek, the blaze at his back, his heart no longer heavy with rage, but still hollowed by the darkness he'd had to become. Kaya waited by the water, wrapped in a blanket, eyes wide as he approached. He dismounted, helped her up onto the horse behind him, and they rode west into the burning night. Cole didn't speak. There was nothing left to say. The sun rose behind them, but Cole didn't look back. Kaya leaned against his back as they rode, her arms weak around his waist, her silence loud with unspoken weight. The creek had long since disappeared behind them, the dry scrublands now stretching out like a blanket of ash. A hawk circled high above, and somewhere far off a coyote cried out. But the world itself felt quiet, as if holding its breath. They stopped just past midday beneath the shade of a lone cottonwood. Cole dismounted first, then helped Ka down, her legs still shaky from exhaustion and blood loss. "You need rest," he said, guiding her to the trier's base. "I need answers," she replied, voice rough but steady. He hesitated, then crouched in front of her. "Ask." She stared at him. "Why did you come for me?" His jaw tightened. "Because no one else would." "That's not an answer." Cole looked down at his hands, the same hands that had carried a knife through flesh. Held her trembling body, buried too many he couldn't save. "You saved me once," he said quietly. "Back when the world looked different, when we still thought there was something good left in it. I guess I couldn't let it all go." Ka's eyes softened. She touched his arm, then let her hand fall. "Thank you." He stood abruptly, scanning the horizon. "We can't stay here long. Mallister's buyers don't work alone. Word will travel. That camp was a warning fire. But some men take fire as a challenge." Kaya tilted her head. "So what now? There's a ranch north of here belongs to a man I trust. He served under my father in the war. Keeps to himself. No questions. He'll give us shelter, us." Cole met her gaze. "You think I'm leaving you now?" A breeze stirred the dust. Ka didn't smile, but her shoulders eased just a little. They rode again by dusk, skimming the edge of civilization, dodging roads, avoiding smoke trails. Every settlement they passed had eyes, and every eye might be tied to coin, but the trail north bent through the broken teeth of a canyon range where few dared to wander. That's where Cole felt most at home. 3 days passed like ghosts in the dark. On the fourth morning they crested a ridge and saw the ranch. Low wooden fences, a barn leaning with age, and a two-story house with a roof patched in 3 different shades. Smoke drifted lazily from the chimney, piece painted in dust and wood. Ka exhaled. "Looks like something out of a dream or a lie." Cole muttered, but rode forward anyway. The door opened before they even reached the gate. A man stepped out, broad-bearded, eyes sharp as river glass. He didn't reach for a weapon, but he didn't wave either. "Cole Mason." The man called. "Figured the next time I saw you, you'd be bleeding." "I still might be," Cole replied, "but not today." The man nodded. "Come on in then. Bring your girl. You look like the edge of hell." Ka glanced at Cole, but didn't correct the assumption. Inside, warmth waited. Real warmth, a fire, bread, coffee. The man, Jed Alton, was as steady as Cole remembered. He didn't ask about the bruises on Ka's wrist or the haunted look in Cole's eyes. He just poured strong coffee and said, "Stay as long as you need." That night, Ka sat wrapped in a blanket near the fire. Cole leaned against the window frame, eyes fixed on the dark. "You don't sleep much, do you?" she asked softly. "Not since the war." She looked up. "The one out there or the one in here?" She tapped her chest. He didn't answer. Outside, a dog barked. Far off, a rider's silhouette crossed the moonlight ridge, then vanished into the trees. Cole's jaw clenched. "They're coming." Kaya stood. "Then we run." He shook his head. "Number, this time we make a stand." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "How many doesn't matter." He turned from the window. There was no fear in his eyes, just the weight of a man who had nothing left to lose except her. And for her, he'd turned the whole world to ash again. Dawn came in hushed tones, the sky streaked with bruised gray as if the heavens themselves sensed the blood to come. Cole was already outside, saddle cinched, rifle slung across his back, hat shadowing eyes that hadn't seen rest. Kaya stood on the porch, arms crossed, tight over her chest, watching him move with the precision of a man preparing for war. Jed stepped out behind her, rifle in one hand, coffee in the other. "You sure about this?" he asked. Cole didn't look up. "I didn't come all this way to run again." Jed grunted. "Didn't think you did. Took the liberty of checking the back trail. 3 riders, maybe 4, keeping their distance for now, but they'll come. Men like that don't travel far just to watch." Ka stepped down from the porch. "Then we fight." Jed studied her, then nodded once. "You've got grit. Just don't let it get you killed." By midday, they had fortified the house the best they could. Barred windows, overturned furniture, rifles loaded, extra rounds laid out like coins on the table. The air was tense with waiting. Kaya sat near the hearth, sharpening a blade that once belonged to her father. Cole paced like a caged animal. "This isn't about just Mallister's men," she said finally. "It's about the others like them, The ones who think we're less property. Silence in a cage. Cole paused, then slowly nodded. Then we make noise. They didn't have to wait long. The first shot rang out at sundown, cracking through the stillness like thunder over a lake. The window near the front shattered. Cole dropped to a knee. Aimed, fired, a scream answered. Jed took the side window, picking off a second rider before he reached the porch. Dust kicked up as hooves circled the house, riders whooping and firing blindly, trying to draw them out. Kaya crouched low, rifle steady, breath slow. A man appeared behind the corral. She squeezed the trigger. His body jerked, then dropped like a sack of grain. They came in waves. One by one, they tried to breach the house. One by one, they fell. Smoke filled the air, thick with the scent of gunpowder and sweat. A lantern was knocked over in the fray, setting fire to a corner of the front room. Ka stomped it out with a blanket, coughing, eyes watering. Cole burst through the back door, shotgun raised, blood on his sleeve. Jed's hit. He shouted. Kaya ran to the side room where Jed lay slumped against the wall, clutching his side. It's not deep. He growled. Just burns like hell. She tore cloth from her dress and pressed it to the wound. You're not dying on my watch. Outside, a new voice rose, a voice Cole recognized. Cole Mason. The man bellowed. You're holed up with your new toy, huh? Thought you could steal what's ours and ride off like some hero. Cole's blood turned cold. Mason Trent, a man once called the Butcher of Waco, tall, brutal, with teeth filed flat like a dog's. Mallister's right hand and worse in every way. Ka stiffened. He was at the camp. I know, Cole said, jaw tight. You think this ends with one night of blood. Trent called again. We're the law now. Ain't no one coming to save you. Cole stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand. I ain't looking to be saved. The silence that followed was sharp as a blade. Then Trent stepped into view, flanked by two men, guns raised. You going to give her up, Mason, or we come in and burn it all? Ka appeared beside Cole. Try it. Trent laughed. You got teeth, girl. Shame about what I'm going to do to you. Cole didn't let her move. He stepped forward, raised his rifle, and fired. The shot took Trent's hat clean off. Missed by an inch, on purpose. You come closer, Cole said, voice low and deadly. I won't miss again, Trent snarled. Then you die first. It was the signal. The final assault began. Bullets tearing through wood. Boots pounding up the porch. Cole met the first man with a shotgun blast to the chest. Kaya dropped the second before he could raise his weapon. Trent stormed in, blade drawn, screaming like a feral dog. He swung at Cole, who blocked with the butt of his rifle, the force jarring up his arm. They grappled, fists flying, blood splattering the walls. Kaya tried to get a clear shot, but the two men twisted in a blur of violence. Trent slammed Cole against the wall, knife raised high. I'll gut you like a pig. Cole reached up, grabbed Trent's wrist, twisted, and drove his own blade into the man's side. Trent froze, eyes wide. Then Cole whispered, You first. Trent fell. Silence returned. Only the crackle of the dying fire and the sound of Ka's breath beside him. It was over, or maybe just beginning. Morning rose, slow and strange. The world outside was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that follows after a storm has torn the roof off a house, but left the walls standing. Ka sat on the porch steps, rifle across her knees, face smudged with soot. Her hair hung loose, tangled, wild like the land around her. The blood on her clothes was dry now, some of it, hers most not. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Inside, Cole knelt beside Jed. The older man was pale but breathing, the wound bandaged tight. He stirred, grunted. You two still alive. Against the odds, Cole muttered. Jed cracked a smile. Told you, tough bastard. They buried the dead behind the barn, 5 bodies, all men with hollow eyes and twitching fingers. Men who had once looked at Ka like she was a prize to be won with bullets. Cole didn't speak during the burial. He shoveled dirt like it was penance. Ka helped, her hands blistered but steady. The wind blew soft over the graves. The earth didn't care who had died. It just took them. When the last stone was set, Cole turned to Kaa. "They'll come again. I know they won't forget this. I don't want them to." Jed hobbled out, leaning on a crude cane. "Then what's the plan?" Cole looked at the scorched fields, the broken door, the house barely standing. "We rebuild," he said, "and we defend. We make it known. This land doesn't belong to murderers and slavers any more." Kaa stepped forward, eyes blazing. "They came to take me, to break me. But I'm still here, and I'm not hiding any more." Jed chuckled low. "Damn girl, you sound like a revolution." "Maybe I am." They spent the next week reinforcing the homestead. Walls repaired, windows barred better than before. Kaya planted seeds near the back fence, hands buried in soil, remembering the women who taught her to grow life, even when everything around them screamed death. At night, she and Cole sat by the fire. He rarely spoke of his past, but she learned through the quiet. In the way he cleaned his rifle like it was the last piece of order he had left. In the way he watched the horizon long after the sun had set, always listening. She told him of her village, her mother's lullabies, the way her brother used to whistle before the horses ran. They didn't call it love, not yet, but something lived between them, quiet, steady, unshakable. 2 weeks later, a rider came down the trail, a young man, jittery, face covered in dust. He brought word from the east. Mallister's gang was shattered, survivors scattered, the fort burned, but they're regrouping, the rider said. "New leader talks of payback." Cole glanced at Kaa. She nodded once, then let them come. The rider looked confused. "You're not running." Kaa stepped forward, shoulder squared. "This land is ours, every stone, every route." "We bled for it," Cole added. "We're not just waiting, we're watching." Jed muttered, "Hell, you sound like ghosts already." That night, Kaya walked the perimeter with Cole. The stars burned bright above. 1,000 cold witnesses to the things they'd done, the things they still might do. Her fingers brushed his as they walked. "You think this will ever end?" she asked. Cole looked up. "Number, but maybe it won't always feel like war." Kaya smiled, tired and true. "That's enough." The wind carried the scent of rain again. Somewhere in the distance coyotes called, but they were not afraid.